I hooked it back up.
Looks like this
Yeah.
broadcast was deleted from Facebook. Spray Wash Academy. Just remove the destination and re-add it.
Huh?
Just remove this destination and then re-add it. That's weird, Spray Wash Academy. Huh. I'm getting a bunch of stuff saying it was
Well,
removed.
so because of my feed being lost when I added it back on, maybe that was it.
We are live right now, so weird.
Oh, hey there, hi there, ho there. Well, and it's showing green in all the areas too. So
that is so bizarre.
yeah, it is.
Well, maybe we're live. And you know what? I probably need to go out and actually. Well, see, I've got the dot up in Spray Wash Pro, and I've got the dot in.
If y'all are seeing us, give us a little comment there, because for some reason looks like we're having technical difficulties. But anyhow, I think it's there, Ray. I do. I think it's there.
Well, but see, on my end, and I'm doing this off of my damn laptop.
And, give us a sec, y'all. We're almost there. I think it's good, Ray.
Okay. Well,
I think we'll see.
We'll see in a minute.
Well, anyhow, good evening out there in Spray Wash land, and we're having some technical difficulties. We think we got them. We think we're there. We think we're good. We're going to see, and we're going to find out. But we're going to talk tonight some about employee retention, and some of this is coming through from a post that was made by Mr. Todd Wyzakowski. And so I'm going to talk about what he said, and then maybe look at a couple of the comments and, kind of get into a discussion about it, because I think this is something that we all need to kind of look at and talk about a little bit, because employee retention and let me first of all, let me just read what he had written, or some of what he had written. So he was talking about, he had an employee. I think the employee had been around for 6 months or so. And then he tested positive for COVID. Anyhow, this is the exchange that kind of went back and forth. He told me he may not come back after I told him he wasn't getting paid for being out for 3 days. So basically, he told the employee, you're not going to be getting paid for those 3 days that you're going to be out, due to your COVID thing. And then he told him that the company policy states you have to be employed for a year before any sick time and vacation time starts. And then he was basically, what he was doing is he was asking, how do you all structure your sick and vacation time? I carried most of the policies I have over from a previous employment thing that he had, and told him that he should have known about this because he signed it on the policies and all that. And it was in the hire book, in the employee handbook when he was hired. So that's kind of where the question comes down, is how would you handle that with the employee only been there for 6 months, and now he's looking to have some time off because of whatever reason, COVID, marriage, whatever, doesn't matter. And so lots of comments back and forth, I think, about that. And so, Ray and I were talking, and we thought that this was a good discussion for tonight, because I also had a run-in with somebody. Run-in's a bad word, but I was at a soft wash company. It looks like I got something in my mustache. It's just a gray hair, just so you all know.
That's just the cocaine, Doug.
Don't looks like a booger or something hanging out, but it's not, y'all. Anyhow, I was at a soft wash company this weekend, and one of the employees was there, and he was new. He had been there for same thing. He had been there about 6 months, and I just were chatting with him back and forth a little bit, and he said that he liked the company and all that kind of stuff, and like the culture of the company. That was his word. And right. He had said that since he had been there, and he'd been there about 6 months, that he has seen about 6 or 7 employees kind of come and go. Right. And when talking about that, he said that one of the reasons that they were coming and going was not about company culture, but it was about the attitude of the employees. Okay. So we're going to touch on a lot of different subjects here. Some of what Todd's talking about, some of just some general things. But Ray, what are your thoughts and feelings on, you've got an employee, he's been there for 6 months, now he's taken off 3 days, 4 days, whatever, because of a COVID test or whatever. And your employment agreement says, hey, it's 1 year before you start getting anything, before you can collect any benefits. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and God knows I respect. I see Todd's actually joined
Yeah.
us here, but, and
Mhm.
I respect the crap out of Todd. I think he's an amazing business person and runs a. He's one of the guys that gets supplied up, and he just good guy. Major commercial contracts. I mean, it's. But I read that post early this morning and then got busy. We've been out of town for 5 days, so my money is a lot of time to get in and comment. But the first thing I thought of, and I think I alluded to it on the posting for this tonight, was that line from the original Pirates of the Caribbean movie when they're talking about the pirates code, and the guy looks at her, and he finally goes, and third, it's not a code as much as it's more just a guideline kind of thing there. And you know rules are, rules are rules until
And
we
they're
have
important.
to, until they're broken, or we have to adapt the rules for ourselves. And and as you and I mentioned, a lot of this is at owner's discretion, or that kind of word in your manual, or at employer's discretion. And I think a lot of it, you have to go with the employer's discretion on there. And if this is a guy that's a good producer, as hard as it is to get employees these days, if it's a good guy who's a good producer, works well with others, then maybe so. I mean,
So here's my take on the thing, right? You've got an employee handbook, and it's the rules and guidelines of employees, and I think that you should stick to your guidelines. However, I think that your guidelines should say that the owner has the right to amend, alter, or do as he sees fit in any given situation. And the reason I say that is I think that we need to look at everything. I think fairness and transparency are the two key points
yeah,
of anything that we do, right? So
yep,
if you have an employee handbook and it says, hey, it's 1 year, okay, and you get an employee that has like COVID, or you know, wife is in a car accident, or whatever happens, something comes up, but that employee he's only been there 6 months. He's only been, let's argue he's only been there 1 month. Okay, let's make that argument. He's been there 1 month, and now he needs to take a week off or so. But he was been a good producer. You really wanted him. Sometimes you take a flyer on the guy and you say, you know what? How about this? I'll advance you pay. You have to make it up. Okay, so you have to make up so much per week, or so much per month. So I'm investing in you, as long as it's a true and credible thing. Would be my point
right.
in that. So I think discretion on the owner. We should have that as at our. Um,
Well, we should have the discretion to break any of our own rules that we
exactly.
want. And I think a lot of it's going to be in a case by case scenario. And you also have to sit there and say, well, golly, in a lot of ways, we're coming out of this nanny state where people have gotten sick, and we've paid them, to, I heard an interesting thing today, just a little blurb on ABC News, why the labor statistics jumped off so high right here in January, where they were not expecting it. And it's because of a lot of stay-at-home COVID benefits have now finally come to an end here in January of 2023, almost 3 years after this is done. And people are going, okay, well, I got to get back to work out there now. Which, is that really the guy that you want working for you? The guy that sat there and milked the system for 2 years and 4 months or 8 months? Probably not. But we did see a big a big jump in the labor statistics just this month, and the January stuff that was released. So I think any of these guidelines, and I totally get it, where Todd's going from, and I also think it has to be done on a case by case scenario, because he might be a good guy and he might just be a little bit misguided, and he may need every penny that's out there and go, holy crap, I mean, you're going to bench me, coach, for 3 days, and I'm a really good, valuable member of this team. There's a lot to get into consideration here. A lot of times the guys that work for us do not have the money that we have. They don't have, I mean, they're working for a daily laboring type job, and every penny counts to them. So especially if they're lower on the pecking order than, say, some of the lead technicians. So we have to kind of look at it from that respect a little bit. But then again, is it somebody you want around or not? Because this could be sorry, that's our policy. Mm-hmm. That's what the policy is. I'm sorry.
Well, I like what Dave's saying here too. After 17 years in the military, I truly believe in being firm, fair, and consistent as a leader, whether that's in business or in the military. And I agree. And that's kind of what we're talking about, though, right? Because if you have a set of rules and a set of guidelines, you have to be firm with those guidelines and those rules. You got to be consistent with them. Yeah. However, being fair to me is not just it's being fair to everybody, right? That's why I said fairness and transparency kind of go hand in hand, right? So to be fair, you got to be fair to the company. You got to be fair to the people that are there, right? You got to be fair to the people that you work for. And so is it fair that this guy maybe got COVID or his wife got in a car accident, so that's why I'm saying, for me, you should look at your guidelines and policies and understand that as a business owner, you get to make those decisions. And when somebody comes up to you and says, well, Ray, you gave Ray 3 days off with pay, and he had only been here 6 months. I've been here, 9 months, and I need the 3 days off for the same reason. This is where you have to be, that firmness and fairness have to come into play as well, where you say yes. However, Ray shows up on time. Doug, you don't. Ray has been excelling at everything that we do here in the company. You haven't been. Okay. Mm-hmm. You've been written up, Doug. Ray has not. There are differences here between the two of you. And that is why, you're borderline even staying here. Say it. He's moving up the ladder with us.
And this is another one of those areas where you also and what I wanted this kind of to segue into is where a PEO or an employee leasing company or somebody like, Southeast Employee Leasing really helps with the HR stuff there, because you don't want to get into a situation to where, God forbid, you get an unfair labor practices scenario, from a lawsuit from an employee because Bob was here for 9 months and you gave him paid time off, and then you told me I get unpaid time off. You can kind of get into a little situation like that. So having something, that was always the nicest thing whenever you had to let somebody go, that Southeast Employee Leasing always made sure every I was dotted and every T was crossed, and that their firing or their termination or their leaving on their own was done exactly into a at par, legally, absolutely.
That was one of the things we used, AEG, and then we used Paychecks, and having that HR department really was a good thing to have. Mm-hmm. To Todd's point, he's exactly right here too, where this is where we were saying that you have to look at the employee and how it's been. If he's already had several flyers, I'm not giving it to him at all. I mean, no, this is a policy. I'm sticking to it. I've already given you some leeway.
That's what it is, and I applaud Todd also for even having an employee manual, because how many of us can actually say we've done an employee manual? And I can think of two different ones. I think we saw with Jeremy Kiefer's and David, what's David's last name? The one guy who used to own Central Flow. Wow. But anyway, Power Wash Store has them, but
Yeah.
they're employee manuals, and they've been, lawyer reviewed.
Don't you hate it when you brain fart like that?
God, I hate getting old. It just sucks,
I
man.
know it. I know it.
So yeah, and it's you have to say, you hate to say it sounds horrible. Sometimes you're consistently inconsistent, but there's a lot of stuff on this. There's a ton of stuff on this employee thing that can really get us jammed up where we don't even. Did you know that there are a lot of states where you need to have permission to use the employees' likenesses and photographs?
Yeah, that's true. And if you don't have it, they can come back on you for it. They can even get, I believe that they can get payments from you based on using their likenesses.
They can. No, they absolutely can. I mean, that's been a big one of some companies that I've talked to, and it's just, we literally have to pay. They literally have to pay them to go away because it's a loser. If you've not done a disclosure, if you've not had them sign off on that, yep.
I was thinking about this. It's on topic, but slightly off topic. Quite often we talk about, growing your company, and, if you want to stay small, great. If you want to grow big, great. Do what you want to do with your company, kind of a thing. But employee retention, to me, kind of has a little bit to do with it, with the growth of the company, right? Because for me, as people come into the company, are they going to want to stay if you're a small company, if you're never going to grow and is there any long-term job security for them with a 1 and 2 man company? You see what I mean?
Right.
So to me, you could have a guy that's been with you 5 years and all of a sudden he's like, you know what? There's no further for me to go here. I mean, it's me and 2 other guys. And if this guy sells this company or he dies or whatever, I mean, this company's gone. I got nothing for the future and I'm out of here. And then he leaves you to work.
I know that a lot of my young men, and I was very blessed to have some, it's funny. We had, a core of 3 guys that were with us long term, 4 guys that were with us long term. And then, it was like 60 other people that were there between 1 month and 6 or 1 week and 6 months. But the core group that we had with us were really tight and really stuck, and they were with us long term. And yeah, they were actually very interested in growth, and they saw themselves as, because a lot of these guys wound up getting hired on as back in the day, $13, $14 an hour, labor assistants, tech helpers, and then wound up at $60,000, $65,000 a year at the end. So we were able to share that growth with them, and they were thrilled about that themselves. Todd has another comment. Documentation from the business retired from, because it all makes sense to have it no matter how small you are. Yep. You throw everything around at the employees, but quite a bit of stuff you stick to. Yeah, no, 100%.
I'll also ask, one of the things I don't think that most of us do is we don't have like employee questionnaires. And what I mean by that is, so you should have you should have an exit interview. It's not something that I really did and that I got heavy into. I kind of did a little bit, but it was more of a one-on-one informal kind of a thing. But think about that. If you have an exit interview with somebody, whether they quit, whether they're fired, it doesn't really matter. Exit interviews to find out why it is that they're leaving can help you build, and retain employees longer when you find out what it is that people are quitting for. Are they quitting because, hey, there's no growth opportunities here? You've never told me I do a good job. What is the reason that these people are leaving? Because I was sick and I didn't get, I couldn't afford to take the 3 days off, whatever the case may be, find out what those reasons for them leaving are. And I would even go further to say that during their time with your company, every 6 months, again, those of you that know me know I'm really big on, I think you should have employee meetings, at least weekly. Some guys do it daily, but have meaningful one-on-one time with the employee to where you can get a good feeling and a good understanding of who they are, what they are, and get some good back and forth with them so that you can build a good company culture around
Hey,
the change
buddy, I love
in
you.
this day and age.
No, 100%. I'm with you on that. And finding out, the whys and the whats. And one of the things that I wanted to also talk about tonight, it is the employee benefits and what's some of the added stuff that we can give. And Anthony's making this comment, and we just had this discussion today, there in the store where somebody came in and he's like, man, well, two people, honestly. I had one guy who's like, I gotta hire somebody and I'm dreading it. And then another guy who's looking at putting a true second truck on the road. And in a lot of ways, he's dreading it as well. Now, he already has, a couple of employees, but now he's really going to have to pull back and put a lot of faith. And his one employee already works a lot alone and with the helper. So it won't be horrible for it. But it is a lot to think about. And I tell you, whenever you start getting these employees going out for you, and now you've really got to get your ducks in a row, because not only are you there to always cover their butts and tell them what to do, but now you've got to have the documentation. Now you've got to have the SDS sheets. Now you've got to have the employee manuals out there and a plan for what happens when we have a flat tire. Mm-hmm. What happens when we have a chemical leak? What happens when you're bitten by a dog? I mean, you've actually got to address all of these freaking things, because you've now got representatives for you out here working under Cajun Soft Wash, working under Spray Wash Exterior Cleaning. And guess what? The buck truly stops with you, with you, whoever's looking at this. That's where the buck winds up stopping with,
Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it all boils back down to you and your company. And that's also another thing about, the LLC versus the sole proprietorship, right? If you have, and making sure you're not, piercing the corporate veil, if you would, because if it's not a matter, the old saying, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when something is going to go wrong. Something is going to go wrong eventually, with employees or with you. I mean, look at, Chris Kunze, who had a heart attack and he broke his ankle and all that. And you've got, was it Pat Clark shattered his ankle, I think it was. And, all of us, guys that have fallen off the roof, gotten hurt or gotten killed, different things that happen. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when something is actually
happening, I love this. As Todd said that the employees already called and can't wait to come back, but he completely understands. Well, there you go,
And realistically, that's what should happen. And if he doesn't understand, I think that that's truly something that is very understandable. And if he doesn't, well.
Well, yeah, water. Yeah, Stephen, my liver literally threatened to leave me after Belize. Okay, that one wasn't water, but now it's yeah. So if y'all see a little kind of gray lumpy thing walking down the street, tell him Daddy loves him to come back home.
The liver,
my liver ran away. Little liver ran away.
Yeah.
But these are things where, right here in Tallahassee, it was in the paper this weekend. Very big general contractor that we've done a lot of work for over the years, and they just got an OSHA fine, and a crane company got an OSHA fine, and a carpentry company got a $25,000 OSHA fine, and they had an employee who fell while setting trusses, and he passed away from his injuries. So, I mean, God bless him. And the the crap you say that where the buck stops here. Well, the carpentry company who had actually employed that person, they got the $25,000 fine. But even the general
Plus, we're
contractor
probably getting a lawsuit.
and the general, not even mention that, but the general contractor and the crane company were both OSHA fined as well for probably, I guess, not enforcing the OSHA regulations, and even the general contractor, which I would, if I had to wager a bet, I doubt anybody from that general contractor was even on that job site whenever that happened. But still, the buck winds up stopping with that GC. And now there was a death on that job. And so the fines are just going to, okay, the person that caused it, now the person responsible for the person that caused it, and the person responsible for the company responsible for the person responsible caused it, That's one of the reasons that it's so important to have these. You know what? If you don't have something in your manual that says you better tie off when you're on a roof, and then somebody falls off on a roof, and I mean, there's one thing where you can say, yeah, we were supposed to. Yes, my boss told us to tie off, and yeah, there's an anchor and there's stuff in the truck, and I should have. My bad. Versus
and that's where you see a lot in this industry where people say, "Yeah, we have that policy, but we don't enforce it," kind of a thing. And I get it, but that is, that's one of the reasons that we try to shoot from the ladder all the time, is to avoid that roof time, altogether, because, we can turn a blind eye to what they're doing, kind of thing. But if we actually have true knowledge of it, and it can be proven that, hey, we knew that guy was always getting up on the roof, he was always doing this, especially if it's something that's unsafe that he's doing and was always doing that unsafe act, and we never did anything about it, we can still be liable. And that's where, again, going back to the LLC, and having a structure there, and then not
that opens up a whole different, and somebody, Justin French, made the comment, not going to hire anybody, make a good living being solo on there. And, this is where it gets real dicey out there. Guys, if y'all don't have an LLC, if you don't have some corporate protections out there, you had better go get some corporate protections. And then, especially
even if you operate by yourself.
Even if you're by yourself. But, and here's the other problem that so many of us have as contractors. I was guilty of it to begin with. Okay, I've got it says LLC behind spray wash. Whoop-de, But if I treat my LLC like my own personal bank account, and I don't treat it like a corporation, and I have pierced, is the term, piercing the corporate veil. If I have pierced that corporate veil, I have a problem now.
And now you can become liable personally for the things that happen within the company, kind of a thing.
Right. And all of your personal assets and your home and your vehicle and your savings and all of that can technically be at risk. So
exactly. Another thing I was thinking about too is that, as far as, employee retention, to me, employee retention starts at the job, not application, but the job ad that you put out. You put out an ad looking to hire, okay? And, a lot of times we try to paint a little bit of a rosy picture, paid time off and, all these things, full benefits and blah, 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 blah. But then, the reality is that, your full benefits don't kick in for 7 years, or, it's just something that's, you're painting a picture that isn't quite really there. So that, to me, is, if you're not painting a realistic picture of what it is that you're hiring somebody for, then your employee retention isn't going to be there. You're going to be continuously doing turnovers of people.
Right.
And the continuous turnovers cost more money than, so if I hire somebody and then I spend the time training them, and I spend 2 weeks, let's say, and then within 1 month they're gone, and now I'm doing that same thing over again, or 2 months, right? I'm better off not to have had an employee for an entire month trying to get that right employee.
Corporate America believes that corporate America believes that it costs let's say an employee makes $50,000 a year, that it costs like a minimum of 1.5 times that person's salary to onboard and then to fire that person. So if a person is costing you $50,000 a year, which probably means they're only making $40,000 a year, but if they're costing you $50,000 a year, then really to hire them and then to fire them is really going to cost you more like $75,000 instead of that $50,000 a year, because there are some training time and some expenses, be it hard expenses or just investment in time that you are going to give to training that person out there. Justin did very smart, Justin. Do yourself a paycheck and do yourself, the cash disbursements and write the checks for disbursements out of the business. Don't if you go out to dinner on the business, you better have a reason to go out to, because I find what so many people do is, oh man, I want to pay in cash. Let me go get $100 out of the bank.
Mm-hmm. And they take $100 out of the business account.
Out of the business account. Yeah. And that's.
But I had the receipt.
Right. But I got the receipt. Yeah. It doesn't really, you better prove what you've spent that money on as well too.
Mm-hmm. And remember, this isn't financial advice. It's not CPA advice. It's not all that.
And Gene has a great point. Not always the case with employee retention. Maybe times are going to cost you more by keeping them. 100%, Gene. 100%. I'm not advocating for keeping a bad guy. What I'm saying is,
matter of fact, we're the ones that we definitely say cut the cancer quick.
Yeah. I think what I'm saying is, whatever fee that is you're paying that person, understand you're not just paying that person that fee. Between the taxes you're paying on them, the Social Security taxes, between that, the training and stuff that you're giving them, and et cetera, you're paying a lot more than their salary. And some people some people show promise, some people don't.
And that's why I think Todd made the right choice here, because the backstory, like he said, was that the employee had already been given several flyers. And so he stuck to, hey, this is our policy. And the guy ended up understanding and hey, can't wait to come back to work next week. Had he kowtowed down just because, hey, I want to try to retain employees, that's a bad move as well. That's why I said in the very beginning, for me, you as the employer, you have to use some discretion there. And Ray is absolutely right too. You have to watch in how you use that discretion, because you don't want to be accused of being unfair. You have to have reasons for why you're doing for one employee and you're not doing for another employee, so to speak.
Anthony asks this: my friend has his own wash company and comes to help me sometimes. Am I still liable if he's helping me on a roof? First off,
this isn't legal advice.
Not legal advice. I am not a lawyer. I honestly have no idea, but I'll tell you my opinion on that. I think that you need to absolutely have a subcontractor agreement with that person. It's good. Like I would never want to use somebody else's employees to help me on a project like that, especially a roof. But if you're talking another solo operator that has his own things, and maybe even just write down that you're a subcontractor. Yeah, I would do that. So you don't have that. Do not form that employee relationship with that employer-employee relationship with that.
Absolutely. Person. I was going to say the same thing. That's something actually that would be a good topic as well, because we encourage you to work with local, competitors, and that you guys can job share, you guys can do things like that, but you really should have agreements in place. Especially if it's happening one time or 100 times, you really should have something that is already drafted up, ready. Hey, the both of you sign it. There's an agreement to it. How many times, Ray, have we seen in this industry where somebody says, man, I asked Ray to come help me, and, a guy shows up and, he doesn't even do anything, and he wants me to pay him half of the job. Or the opposite side of it is, Ray hired me to come out there and help him, told me he was going to give me half of the job. The job was a $10,000 job. I spent 2 days out there and he sent me a check for $1,500. Man, that snake, these things happen like pretty
seen it
routine
a
and
lot. I
regular.
mean, you and I have
So,
both talked to people, those exact
oh,
scenarios
absolutely.
happen,
All agreements in place, written,
and
finances, and all of that. If somebody's not comfortable with that, dude, it's just that's the way it is. That's
you
business.
better, and this money thing. I mean, what you better do is have it written down in an agreement, because I mean, money can make even the best of friends sometimes fight, especially if somebody feels slighted or something like that. You need to have and let's say it is a $10,000 job. I mean, hey, let's split this job. Okay, yeah, you want to do that. Well, what do you mean there was a lift rental involved? You said we were splitting this job. Well, yeah, I'm splitting it. I'm taking out $2,000 worth of lift rental and the bleach and all that. Well, no, I thought you were paying me half of that $10,000 job. Well, no, I'm paying you half the profit on that. I mean, stuff can get really,
Right.
really, really
Half the
misconstrued.
job, half the profit of the job, half the net of the job, half the gross of
We
the job.
saw we saw it happen with a really big, important, fancy, high-named washer. And there's two definite sides of the story on there. Where the one guy thought he was going to go up there and work for a week for, what was it, $7,500, and he literally got the check for $1,500 or something.
Mhm.
I don't know who's, obviously somebody feels very, and this is
Say,
about 7 years ago. Somebody feels very somebody didn't get their end of the story right. One of the
right.
two people,
Mhm.
But yeah, I think and people, I see people doing it at our store all the time. Working with each other's, Anthony, especially the solo washers that have the hard time finding the help. I see that happening a great deal with people sharing jobs. I just really recommend y'all get everything out in writing, beforehand.
Even if it's something simple, and you could probably get a local attorney to help you draft something up for $250. I'd imagine an hour of their time. And you don't necessarily have to have an attorney do it, though I would recommend that, but have something written, something between the two of you that just says, hey, we are splitting splitting the jobs, or hey, if it's my job, I'm retaining 60%, but 60% of what? And are you
Right.
retaining 60% of the gross, of the net, of the, what is it that you're retaining and what is it that you're paying him? And then
Absolutely.
he's going to say, yeah, but then I had gas as well. I got to fuel up my pressure washer. Give me $20, that kind of thing. You got to make sure all of that is squared away.
Yeah. What is it you're actually splitting? You splitting the job, the gross, the net, or whatever, it is on there. Something else, and I want to change gears a little bit, but let's talk about some benefits. With the labor market being as tight as it is, and I tell you, I'm, like I mentioned at the beginning of this thing, with the Bureau of Labor Statistics, coming out and saying, oh, all these jobs are added. I really worry about the quality of people that are getting added to the jobs, because if you're now going to be able to hire people, but those are people that literally have been sitting on their butts for 2.5 years milking the government money, I question how great of an employee that's going to be.
To me, that's kind of a double-edged sword too, though. I mean, if they're that lazy, right, they may be too lazy to go look for another job.
Yeah, yeah.
But but you do have to. This is where having the rules in place too, and having the standards, and having the agreement with them, and sticking to the letter of the agreement, or the intent of the agreement, to me, can be very important. Because if they're coming in, like you're saying, they've been off for 2 years, living off the teat of the government. Now all of a sudden, I got to go to work, and but they're not pulling their weight. First, have that employment agreement in place that allows you to cut them, depending on your state. Some states are at will, some are not. And what that basically means is that some states you can fire somebody and you don't have to have a reason. Other states, you have to have a reason for it. And then there's certain guidelines. That's why I really, really liked, going off subject here just a little bit, but I really liked having a PEO, a professional employment organization, somebody that took care of all of the HR for us and made sure that we were HR compliant. If I had any HR questions, that I could call. So even as a solo, I wouldn't do it as a solo, but if I had one employee, I would go with an employment company kind of thing. So.
Justin, yeah, absolutely. We had a special niche, Justin. We did medical. And medical was just incredible for us. After about the third year in business, we earned, I don't want to say we lucked into, we earned a contract with a hospital, and it was, it was huge. And it morphed from, in the low thousands a month to over five figures a month. And it kept us in the good times and the bad times, and was still a part. We wound up selling our company. We kept that contract for over 10 years. So it was really, really, nice. Jim Bob made the comment, you look at the standards for all occupations. I mean, it's crazy. We saw something last week about pilots. Like I think Southwest was lowering their requirements for their pilots because they literally can't.
They don't really need any requirements for that.
I mean, if they're just getting on a plane and flying across the freaking Caribbean Sea, I kind of thought that came to mind. You look at what happened with those Memphis, police officers here recently. I think all of those were hired after they lowered the standards of the police officers, and at the end of the a couple of years ago, because they couldn't find qualified officers to go. Yeah, I mean it really is. It's very scary.
I had a weird thought run through my head. I'm sorry. So when you were saying that and the qualifications and all that. All right. So not to get into the political side of it, but, we shot down a balloon, from China and all that kind of stuff. But I remember when I saw that thing, and the balloon, well, it looked like whatever they shot it with barely hit it. So when you said that, the quality, I was thinking, he almost missed that balloon, it looked like.
Yeah.
How embarrassing would that have been? So you're lowering your standards. And it actually kind of brings it through. If you lower your standards too much, now you miss the balloon, and you don't want to miss the balloon. That's a bad thing to do.
You don't. So Todd, the PEO is actually like the way the Southeast employee leasing worked is. My employees were technically their employees. They got paychecks from Southeast Employee Leasing.
I never received a paycheck from Cajun Softwash.
No. Yeah, I mean they would literally, we would tell them what hours they worked. They covered the workers' comp. They covered everything on there, and then
so I think what his question is though is that it's included in that fee that you pay every single week or like
bi-weekly.
We were on a weekly payment schedule where we pay our employees every week, and so I think the end result was 23.5%. That's taking out all the FICA, WICA, all the different things that have to come out, right? So they got their paycheck plus the fee that they charged, which I can't remember what it was, but to me, it was extremely reasonable. And by doing that, they were also taking care of the workers' comp. And just in that one side of it alone was saving me money using their company, because they could go to a bigger pool than what I could go to get that workers' comp. I ended up having to do my own workers' comp, but anyhow.
They established their own workers' comp as well. I mean, they actually underwrote their own workers' comp as far as Southeast did. They were large enough. And so they were able to break up the hours, and they didn't charge roofers workers comp on everybody. They charged roofers workers comp on, to the lead technicians. And then they gave more of a general labor workers comp on other technicians. I was an estimator workers comp, and we were fully covered on there. So that was their decision. The other really cool thing on that was you never got a workers' comp audit, since they were the ones doing your payroll as well. And I mean, we've heard the horror stories about people getting the workers' comp audits, and all of a sudden I owe for $6,000 to workers' comp. And a lot of times that happens whenever we don't run our business as a business, and you're going in there to the ATM and you're pulling cash out for stuff. Because remember, anytime you have unverified, unjustified expenditures, especially in cash out of your business, workers' comp is going to go, your workers' comp insurance, and they have the right to go and audit your books once a year, they're going to assume that was money that you spent on wages under the table and that you did not collect workers' comp on there, and they're going to back charge you for that workers' comp.
So, Stephen, I assume what you're asking, what's the major benefit of that? I'm assuming that you're talking about the PEO. That's what I'm thinking that you're doing, and not being able to sue you directly. No, they can still sue because they're still doing work for your company. They can actually sue pay. So, like in the end, I was using Paychex. They could sue Cajun Soft Wash. They could sue Lifestyle that owns Cajun Soft Wash, and then they could sue Paychex if they really wanted to, right? So lawyers tend to go after it. That's not really the key benefit of it, but having things in place prevents that from being it. So they can't go after Lifestyle because Lifestyle has nothing to do with Cajun Soft Wash kind of a thing. And then they, depending on it too, there's going to be other caveats where they can't sue Paychex because Paychex has nothing to do with so there's different agreements and things in there
and there's some states that it's not available, like because Southeast Employee Leasing, like I know somebody jumped on it in Virginia, but they weren't available in North Carolina or South Carolina or something. I mean, different states have different rules for this. So, it may not even be available in Georgia. Who knows on that, Todd? So, yes, and you can get a workers' comp exemption with that. So, Rusty, maybe so. I would just have to look into there. Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty sure
they're going to charge you for doing the audit whenever they go and take more money away from you. 100%.
Yeah. And Rusty, I'm look, this isn't a pitch for Paychex by any means, or Southeast Employment Leasing, that kind of a thing. But there are lots of different. Just search, your area, PEO, your area. PEO stands for
employee leasing.
Yeah, exactly. So you can just do a quick Google search and find out who you have in your area, and then just give them a call. Because, like I said, we work with a couple of American Employer Group, I think it was AEG, and then Paychex and
Stephen, yes, 100%. You can, and in this area, Southeast Employee Leasing, highly recommend them. We were always so thrilled with them. But yes, you can. In fact, they prefer it if you bring. I mean, they're not giving you the employees. You're still bringing the employees in. You're just turning them over to them, at least as far as all the paperwork is concerned on there. You're still in charge of all of it.
That look, they can. So, what are some of the benefits? I know this wasn't the purpose of the discussion, but I mean, they can help you with getting what is the retirement plans in place, and all different kinds of things that help you retain employees.
This is one of the things I want to talk about with the employee benefits on there, because they say that a lot now the Gen Z and the millennials, to them company culture is so very important. And okay, well, what's the well, we did health insurance. I mean, that was something it was collected through, but it was one of the proudest moments that we had. But we provided 50% of a really, really, really good health insurance to our employees. And we were very proud that we could wind up doing that. Now it was collected and dispersed out of their paycheck, and we paid Southeast personnel for that, but we had capital health plan for our employees. They administered a 401k with matching employer benefits. Unfortunately, I had to be the one to match it. But yeah, it's little things like that might actually, a pizza party, a membership at a gun range. I mean, little things like that, little outings that you can do with your employees. We always tried to get together once a quarter and do something.
Going back to the retirement plans and the matching and all that, it costs you money because you're matching that a certain amount, up to a certain amount, right? And again, to me, it's one of those things because this is about retaining employees.
Oh,
am I gone? There you go.
Yeah,
if you're trying to retain employees, then if you have an employee that's doing a minimum amount into his 401k, maybe go and talk to him and say, dude, you really should increase that, and here's why. Here's the benefits. Have that retirement specialist come in and show him where he could be making so much more money off of you, right? It's going to cost you money, but it's about it building that retention, being able to keep a good employee for a long period of time. And now he sees, hey, this guy really does care about me, and he's helping me with my financial future as well. So that's why these things are, to me, are important.
None of our employees ever cared where the paycheck came from, whether it was Spray Wash or Southeast Employee Leasing. And in fact, they were honestly a lot more skippy about us than doing stuff and filing the right paperwork. I mean, they were amazing. It's what they do.
I think it actually helped us instead of hurting us. Like, the guys didn't care that they didn't get a paycheck from Cajun Soft Wash. To them, they recognized that they were part of something much, much larger, or that we were part of something much, much larger. And again, just like Ray's saying, there was never any fear about, I can say, I think only once or twice where I would have somebody come to me and say, Doug, my paycheck isn't right.
Right.
Okay? Because then we could get on the horn with that. And I'd just sit down and say, okay, well, you had X number of hours. Well, no, I had this many hours. Okay, well, that's where the discrepancy is, right? Because there was an hours thing. But if there was something else, I could just turn it right over to them. They would deal with it, and it was done.
And so, yeah, very nice that you're doing that. Tanya can give you their number. I'm sure she still got it on file because we worked for them for years. Our rep wound up retiring, but they're still amazing. Well, you're using a payroll company that does all that. Somebody like Paychecks or someone, I'm assuming. Yeah, there you go.
So another thing just to kind of touch on briefly is make sure that there's a good work/life balance for your employees as well. I mean, again, this is about employee retention. And if it's nothing but work, and it's always, man, I can't, hun, because I got to work at night for the company today, and I got to do and they're always, they never have a structured time off that they know, hey, I don't have to be on call here. I don't have to, whatever. That can help you in the long run too, to retaining employees, because you have to, just like they're going to burn out, right? They're going to burn out on always working for you. And I mean, for me, I know, we work the guys during the weekend and all that kind of stuff. And I'd say, hey, you know what? Let's take Tuesday and Wednesday off. Why not? Give them that little extra time off.
Let's go out on the boat. And yeah, Jim Bob, it's amazing how cash helps these guys sometimes too. Man, we had a good day. Come here. Bam, bam, bam. And throw a little love to them. I mean, it's amazing how much that'll help the guys.
Absolutely. That's where I love my employee bonus program. Man, I think that really helped with employee retention, and it helped with stop callbacks and all kinds of stuff that I feel like it helped my company with, because just didn't have to deal with those things anymore. And if we did, I didn't have to pay for it.
I've heard of so many interesting employee bonus or incentive programs out there. I used to think we had it all figured out and stuff, but boy, I mean, I've even heard of some where it became like a headhunter situation, to where your job went up there in a multi-crew scenario. The bonus was out there if there was a callback. It went out there on the board, and if your callback wasn't done within 24 hours, any of the other crews had the right to go do that callback.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. But going back to what you were saying, we wound up going 6 days a week, but we let the guys have some days off here and there upon request. But we always made sure Friday was the day off, because we did so much commercial stuff on the weekends. And eventually we had enough people to where we could rotate off, and everybody got 2 days off, at least a couple of weeks a month on there. But we found that most of the guys really, really, really wanted money, and they didn't necessarily, as long as they had one good day off a week, they were happy.
Curious, is my camera super fuzzy on your end?
Yeah, a little bit. It's a little, it feels like it's an autofocus camera that hasn't quite.
Yeah, for some reason, every now and then it will do that. Oh, well, I don't care. I mean, I should, but I just
you look better. You really do. You honestly, you look better fuzzy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's it. And not the typical millennial or Gen Z guy is going to be our average employee, but especially the millennials. But as we tend to be a little more roughneck in our what we do as a culture here. But again, that culture thing is important to them, and people do want to belong to something. And I mean,
And
I
they want their
honestly,
praise.
what's that?
They want their praise. They
They
want to
want
know
their
they're
praise.
doing
I
a
mean,
good
I
job.
think that's one of the issues we have. I mean, I'm getting way too out on a limb right now, but I think that's one of the issues that we're having with the transgenderism and the not knowing which hole to pee out of and things like that, is people just desperately searching for a sense of belonging.
Mhm,
And that's something that we can offer them as employers, is a beautiful, wonderful sense of belonging out there.
mhm,
Give those guys that belonging, and man, a lot of times they will love you back and really
mhm.
be loyal to you.
That's another thing as far as retention. If you hire somebody on, you should have something within the culture of your company that helps welcome them in. Because sometimes, have you ever started a job and you go there and nobody wants to talk to you because you're the new guy, or it's just there's just this feeling because you're the new guy that nobody, everybody's they want to stay away from you because they don't it's just one of them things, right?
Yeah,
I've had that feeling in jobs that I had.
yeah,
And you know you should do something to make sure that they know that they're welcome, that they feel, I mean, again, this isn't about making everybody feel good and worrying about everybody's feelings. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a company culture that I want, so that I retain the employees, not necessarily just about not hurting somebody's feelings. Okay, if they screw up, you tell them they screwed up. I don't care if it hurts your feelings. It's
yeah.
true. If you
Which we
can't
won't
handle
cancel.
it, you got to go.
Right, right. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's I still remember. So I had literally lost the farm at this point, and I had not started spray wash up, and was destitute, and I did a couple of ads, a couple of help wanted ads, and I remember there's a couple of things in public policy that was up my alley in developing something for the state of Florida. And I remember going on an interview in the Larson building and showing up there, and the people in that building, in this big old halls of this 1950s office building, and people just walking with their heads down and not speaking and not looking at you and not smiling. And I was just like, these people have literally had their souls removed from,
Yeah.
from I was like, I can't do this. This seems like the most horrible, horrible place in the world to work. And I got a call back on this. And I'm like, I just can't do it. If this kept on thinking about what all of these, people that I saw there, how it just looked like they had their hearts ripped out and were there under duress. I couldn't do it. And thank God I didn't.
If you look back on, that's a good point that I actually hadn't even thought about. If you look back on places that maybe you've gone and you've interviewed or that you've worked at, when you went there the very first time, how were you greeted by people, right? If you're greeted with that, hey man, yeah, well, nice to meet you, yeah, whatever,
Mhm.
or hey man, hey, it's really great to meet you, yeah, come on back here, let me show you something. you
Yep.
know you can tell whether or not people enjoy working at that particular company, right? And if they don't enjoy being there, the odds are you're not going to enjoy being there. So I wish I'd have really noticed that and known that earlier on in life, because then there's probably jobs I wouldn't have
Well,
taken.
it's the same way with our customers. I mean, you go up to a customer and you meet a customer. Uh, at, who's going to get the business? The guy that hops out of his truck like he's happy to be alive and wants to be there, or the guy just,
Mhm. My dog
hey,
died today.
yeah, exactly. So Oh, yeah, you want your house washed? Or are you going to, hey, how are you? Oh my God, I love this neighborhood. I have always enjoyed working in this neighborhood right up here. And
Excuse me.
God bless you. I mean, it's her attitude has so much to do with all of it. All right. If you had to give one piece of advice on how to keep your employees to care and provide the wow experience for your customers, what would you all say?
One piece of advice. This is going to
And
sound sappy, but
Stephen actually has amazing employees. I've gotten to talk to Stephen's employees, and he's got a couple of guys that are just absolute, just amazing. Happy. They smile. They're good guys. But if I had to give an advice on engagement,
I would say be honest and own it. Own whatever it is. Okay, own happiness, own screw ups, own it all. That would be my be honest and own it. That would be my advice.
I would say engagement between the company and the employees on there, and letting people know, yeah, we're all a part of this. We're all in this together. I remember whenever our books got opened up a lot more, and we started to talk, because we actually started it with our bonus program, and we'd sit there and tell the guys, okay, look, I know that y'all might see a check, or y'all might see an estimate in my truck that this is a $16,000 job. This is a $16,000 building that we're working on. That sounds like a lot of money, isn't it? Damn right, that's a lot of money. All right, let's look at the simple economics of this job. This job is going to have $3,500 in lift costs. We are going to use $500 in bleach. We are going to use, X amount of chemicals on this job.
Labor.
The rent of our facility costs us, $3,500 a month. The insurance is this. I mean, this is how much it costs us to run a truck a day. We want to be able to love you guys and bless you guys. Each one of you guys are running about 10 to 15 hours of overtime a week here. And and so once we started doing that engagement and really bringing the employees in and letting them see the financials side of the business there, they were all of a sudden going, damn, these guys really, really, really treat us well. Mm-hmm. It's not about just them making a boatload of money on stuff. Now, I'd say one of the things that
letting them know the costs, I think, is an important thing.
But now we would have so we were really benefiting in that we had 3 trucks at the same time doing the same stuff, so our profits wound up, really building up there as the business owner, but also so did our risk, so did our expenses, so did our exposure. But having the technicians understand that you weren't doing a $16,000 job, and it didn't mean that we were just going to go and slide $12,000 in our pocket, really became a big deal to them,
Mm-hmm. I like what Gene's saying here too. And yes, Rusty, I had to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
I like what Gene's saying. Bonus if customer mentions your name in a good manner to us,
Yes.
or your name on a 5-star review. I think that's great at building company culture too, because if you can get them, and now the employee is, maybe asking, hey, do you mind leaving us a 5-star review? And if I didn't do a 5-star job, hey, let me know what I can do to earn that 5 stars. Is there something I missed? Is there something we can do? Just again, own it. And I think that those are important things to do.
100%. 100%. Well, Doug, it is 9:00, my friend.
Yep.
We've done our hour. Thank y'all. Good discussion tonight. And thank you, Todd, for sharing that with us today. And said, I'm glad we did it. Engagement hard. There we go. I saw, hold on. I want to push the engagement hard, talk to our customers, and I have an open door at all times. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like this. hold on. We completed Amazon facility last year. Gave the guys a challenge to finish 2 days early. They were received $500 bonus. Challenge accepted and completed, but more so it led to more communication, better teamwork, and more. They loved it, and I have continued that since. Want them to be excited about what they do.
That's
And
awesome.
it's funny you bring that up, Todd, because I've done that with guys as well. And I said, look, I don't want corners being cut. I don't want any negative, I don't want y'all to be work unsafely, but here's the economics of this job. The lift is costing us $800 a day. If y'all can save me money on that lift, the money that's saved on the lift, I'll give half of the money to y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Because we as owners, we know how long the job's going to take.
Yep. We know how long it's going to take, and we know what it's going to cost.
Well, Wes, what's happening, man? Well, guys, thank y'all all. Jim, Bob, good night. Michael.
Appreciate y'all. We'll see you next week, too.
All right, guys. Y'all have a great evening. Happy Monday.
Peace out.